This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since, 1991 actually, but I say 1995. Kapetan Brothers, if you have been arrested for a criminal offense, or if you've been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, please do yourself a favor. Give the Kapetan Brothers a call at 559-498-8000. Do us a favor. We could always use business, right, Marcella? Marcella says yes. 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Today's guest, folks, is a man that I haven't seen in probably 25 years now. But unbeknownst to you, Judge, I'll give it away, Judge, he has always been part of my everyday practice. When Kapetan Brothers had an office in Visalia, we serviced the whole of Tulare and Kings counties. Visalia courts were efficient. They were streamlined and punctual. Every judge, unlike Fresno, every judge, sorry, Fresno judges, was promptly in his chambers at 8 a.m. and expected the attorneys to be there ready to negotiate. And I lived in Fresno. I had to travel an hour every day and be there at 8 a.m. Sometimes I was late. My next guest was a prime example. As a Superior Court judge, he was no nonsense, always ready, Marine sensibilities, which I appreciated as my dad was a Marine colonel. He was fair and efficient. His taking of a plea was matter of fact. To the defendant, he would say, "Did you sign the plea form?" which advises the defendant of all their rights and consequences. The defendant would say, "Yes." "Did you understand it?" "Yes." "Okay, I'm signing the form making the findings that you knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered your plea. 3 years probation, $250 fine, 5 days on a work program. You understand that?" "Yes." "Okay, next case." And it was just like that. No nonsense. And so when I complain about the inefficiencies of the modern judicial system, I will often, seriously, mention to my colleagues my experiences with a particular Visalia judge that I had the pleasure to appear in front of nearly daily for about 10 years or more. He is a former Marine, former pro baseball player, former homicide prosecutor in Los Angeles and Tulare County, and to my surprise and chagrin, a hell of an author. I just read 2 of his true crime books, The Coin Dealer Killer and The Frame Up, about murders he prosecuted in Visalia. I have to say, I expected the no-nonsense style, but the flow, the readability, and the way he sets the scenes and tells the story were done with a flair that I did not expect out of this no-nonsense Marine. So I would like to welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show former Tulare County Superior Court judge and author, Ronn Couillard. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, listen, it's a pleasure seeing you after all these years.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I really do that. I tell everybody how great you were. And, you know, they have these plea forms. You remember the plea forms, Judge?
Yeah.
And they sit there and they go through them word by word, line by line by line. And I feel like saying, well, either do the plea forms or just do an oral taking of the plea. And it's just a waste of time.
It is. It is a waste of time. If you're going to give them something, a contract to sign, let them sign it, and don't go over it again. And make sure they understood it. And if they say yes, then you're fine. You're home free.
Yeah. And it's funny because most people don't understand that. It is a contract.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. What have you been doing for the past 20 years? It's been so long.
Well, I retired from the bench in 2007. That was after 20 years. And then I worked on assignment for 9 years till 2016, and
doing temporary filling in basically as a temporary
basically judge. Yeah. What I did though, I stayed in Tulare County. I didn't travel county to county, and I was running the pretrial facility out at the Bob Wiley Detention Center in North Visalia, and I did that for roughly 9 years. And what we did out there was all the in custody arraignments were done out there, and we tried to settle any cases we could, and we settled quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And then the others we'd schedule for preliminary hearing or pre-trials or whatever.
Yeah, they have a great facility out there. It bums me out that Fresno decided to build their main jail, even the jail that houses the inmates that are going to be there for long term after sentencing. They built it right in the middle of downtown, and Bob Wiley is out in the middle of nowhere.
It is.
But it's run efficiently.
It is run efficiently, and they have long-term candidates out there. In other words, people that are sentenced to a while.
Is that what you call them now, candidates?
Well, but also we had at that time all the arraignments out there.
Right.
And custody arraignments, it alleviated the sheriff from having to bust them out to get into Visalia or out to Porterville or wherever.
Yeah.
But when they built the new courthouse in Porterville, they did away with that.
Yeah, beautiful courthouse they built out there.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. Let's forget about all the business stuff. I hate talking about our businesses. I want to find out. You must have. Is this pursuing this being an author? Was this pursuing an old dream, or is it something that just popped up?
No. It was a hobby. In fact, it's kind of a hobby. I spent 48 years in the criminal law business.
Yeah.
I was as a prosecutor and as a judge. And some of the cases are very interesting. In fact, when you try the case, it's even more interesting because you're into the depth of it and you understand all the personalities and all. And I don't know, I just started writing it down, and eventually a number of years after I had prosecuted these two cases, I put them in a book form, and this is what happened.
Okay, so what we're talking about is Murder in Visalia, the coin dealer killer, and the frame-up, A Murder in Visalia. So they all relate to your time as a prosecutor in Visalia. Yeah.
Correct.
I read The Coin Dealer Killer, which I think, folks, we're going to do 2 shows out of this because I want to talk about the first book and about your life and catch up because it's been so many years. But I also want to talk the next show maybe about the frame-up. I thought The Coin Dealer Killer was almost stranger than fiction in some respects, but then you get to the next book, The Frame Up, and I think they are great books. I think you wrote them beautifully. It gave your sense of style of teaching the law, but not doing it in a law school classroom way. And so when you wrote this, you said these were cases that you did 30-something years ago, 40-something years ago?
Well, the coin dealer case, I'm from Southern California.
Yeah.
And we moved up. We wanted to get out of L.A., so we moved up to Visalia in Tulare County in 1980. And the coin dealer case had occurred in October of 79, so it was almost a year old when I moved up here. And actually, there was as you read in the book, there's a similar case in Fresno County.
Fresno that was never prosecuted.
Never prosecuted. That was the Bybee case, and that occurred in August of 1979. So it was Bybee in August and the Moyer case in October. And I was in the DA's office there in Tulare one day. I arrived there in June of 1980. And in October of 1980, Bill Whitman walked in with a big old police report. And
the sheriff.
He was
a deputy.
Sheriff. He was a police officer for the city of Visalia at the time.
I see.
And he was one of the investigators, and he had this coin dealer case. It had just been given to him, paperwork-wise. And he walked in with all this, and he said, "We just arrested this guy for murder, and we want to file on him." And I'm a brand new guy in the office. But
you had some seniority, right?
Oh yeah. I'd had 10 years or more of DA work.
And I think you said you even came in and that the office was a very, very young office, a lot of experience. So you were going to be the go-to guy on this case.
I was. Yeah, the go-to guy in the city of Visalia cases.
Right.
And so I said, well, you know, we have to. He says we have to release him if you don't file. And I says, you want me to read this?
This huge file
in 15 minutes and file this case
and decide the guy's fate just like that. Listen, we're going to get back to this. We are on with Judge Ronn Couillard from Visalia, Tulare County, talking about his books about prosecuting murder cases in Visalia. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. We'll be right back. Today's show is also brought to you by Max's Bistro and Bar. It's your neighborhood spot. I go to Max's all the time. I love the Max burger, the filet, the chicken marsala. It's all great. I mean, really, it's all just wonderful. It's always great to start off with the sweet potato fries and the truffle fries, maybe a little cocktail. Max's, your neighborhood spot. You'll love Max's because Max's loves you. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, today's show sponsored by the Business Journal. Folks, if you are an entrepreneur, a small business, or even a big business, the Business Journal has all your business news regarding the Central Valley. I got to say, it's been around since 1880 something. 1880s. Crazy. One of the oldest businesses providing you the business news. So go to thebusinessjournal.com. Subscribe. I subscribe to the Business Journal. It sits in our office every single day. So thebusinessjournal.com. And so we are back on with Judge Ronn Couillard. Judge Couillard is a judge that I haven't seen in about 20 years. Found out that he had written some books about murder prosecutions he did as a prosecutor in Visalia back in the day. And we're talking about the first one, the coin dealer killer. Judge, you mentioned that, and let's get this straight. The coin dealer killer was a gentleman who may have been a hobbyist collecting coins, and we don't know if it was a hobby prior to his reason for murder, but killed a coin dealer in pawn shop type guy, a coin dealer in Visalia, and there was almost a duplicate crime in Fresno. And did you ever find out, because it was never ever prosecuted, did you ever find out why it was never prosecuted?
Well, I didn't. I tried to get in contact with the Fresno DA, and I kind of got a runaround, but I did get a hold of the detectives from Fresno Police Department that were handling it. In fact, they assisted me in my case down in Tulare. They got together with Bill Whitman, who was the investigator from Tulare, and another individual, Bill McGowan, who was his assistant. And they basically, the four of them worked together, but we could never get Fresno County to prosecute their case. But ironically, I used the evidence from the Fresno case as under what evidence code allows as similar evidence, because the types of killing, the killing from the Fresno case and the Visalia case, were so similar in nature that it appeared that the same person could have committed it. And
that was his modus operandi, basically.
That was his modus operandi.
Yeah.
That was
his method of operation, as we would say. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
and so that information was put into the Visalia case. In fact, I ended up trying the Visalia case twice because of an appeal court decision that turned it around. But I had the Fresno case in my evidence in Visalia in both the matters.
Yeah. So what was interesting, though, is not only did it seem to show a modus operandi or method of operation that was similar, but it seemed to be so similar that I was just perplexed how they didn't file it, and that there's the family of this victim who never got justice.
Yeah, that's true. That was called the Bybee case. James Bybee was the victim up here in Fresno, and I tried to get them to file it, and nobody would do it. And I even told them I'd take a vacation, come up and file it, and try it up in your county on my own. You wouldn't have to use one of your DAs. But I put that evidence on twice in my trial in Visalia, and the evidence was good. In fact, that case was stronger in
That's
my
what I
mind, than the
thought.
Visalia
Yeah,
case.
it was.
Because I could never put the defendant in the city of Visalia. I never physically could put him in there.
There was a question that basically he was staying. He said he was going to go to Vegas or Disneyland or something like that, and he was staying at a motel in Fresno. But
correct.
Circumstantially, you were able to show that he likely took off from that motel and committed the crime in Visalia, came back and picked up his wife potentially.
Correct.
And then drove on the trip, right?
That's correct. But physically, I could never put him in the city of Visalia.
Right.
So it was a very fascinating case.
Folks, what's great about this book, Murder in Visalia, The Coin Dealer Killer, and the other books by Judge Ronn Couillard, is I've termed it, and I don't know if you've come up with this yet, is most cases are whodunit books. Basically, throughout the book, you have a cast of characters, and you're not sure exactly who has done it. You actually announce very early on that this is the killer. We know in the end you're going to know that this is the killer. And so I've termed yours a howdunit, basically, or how I did this.
Right.
And it's like one of your readers basically states, it's basically an ultimate for any young attorney who's growing up on how to do some of these cases. But you do it with such a flair that I was really shocked. You did it with such a flair, but with such simplicity, the way you told how you did this.
Well, thank you. It was an interesting case, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
There's interesting characters within the case itself, including the defendant himself, which you could gather through the book.
And what's funny is you have a bit of Sam Spade in you. What did you call the defendant?
Well, I didn't. The Fresno detectives gave me they called him the Doughboy.
The Pillsbury Doughboy, right?
Pillsbury Doughboy, yeah. I think maybe Bill Whitman came up with that name. I don't know. One of the detectives did, and so we referred to him as the Doughboy after that.
Yeah,
not in trial, of course.
No. Yeah, that would not work. Yeah, I think you called him the Doughboy and what was it? A something biscuit, basically.
Oh yeah, the Pillsbury biscuit.
Yeah, the famous talking biscuit. I think you called him.
Talking biscuit, right?
And it was basically why? Why did you?
Well,
refer
he
to him
was
as
a odd-looking little fellow, and he was kind of a roly-poly fellow, and he had his face just looked, kind of round and white and puffy, and looked like a biscuit.
But also you made mention that he almost seemed innocent the way he was.
You would never see him and expect he committed a crime. He would just look like to use a phrase, a computer nerd, just a kid that would be sitting there doing jigsaw puzzles or something, but you would never expect him of this. And I tell you, if you read the book, well, you read the book, but there were some suspicions. There were several other crimes he was involved in.
Yeah, it basically, when he would open his mouth, you would get the sense that this guy is nefarious, and the crimes that he committed, not that they were an innocent guy who was committing crimes out of desperation, out of whatever. It just seemed to be purely monetary gain.
Purely monetary and very calculated. He was a bright guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't any dumb guy that just walked in with a gun and held a place up. He was very deliberate, very concentrated, and very, very intelligent fellow.
Yeah.
I bet he didn't put his efforts elsewhere than robbing coin dealers.
The planning and sophistication was very, very detailed. And you got to say, after you said 48 years, do you sit there and are you amazed by what depths humanity will go to, or a person will go to commit murder?
Well, yes. You are, because you run across so many of them and different types. And I did it from both ends. I did it as a prosecutor and also as the judge. And for a few years, I was in private practice for a couple of years, but basically as a prosecutor and a judge. And you run across some fascinating people and some very interesting cases.
Did you ever do defense work?
Yeah, I did that when I was
Really?
in private practice. That's what I did, defense work, just before we moved up here. And I was in practice with somebody else, and that for a couple of years. And then it didn't work out so well. I was dissolving it. And about that time, I was either going to stay in practice on my own, go back to the L.A. or Orange County DA, hopefully, or we decided just to move out of Southern California, which I'm glad we did. It worked out well.
Folks, we got a fire alarm going on at KMJ, so we're going to have to take a break. Perfect time for a break. We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show. Yes, it is, Judge. Okay, we're back on KMJ, and we are still, the building is still standing. So evidently it was a test, folks. Fire alarm test. We're back on, welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. We are on with Judge Ronn Couillard. He is I'll say old friend, Judge. Old friend, colleague, guy that I appeared in front of many, many times, and I loved appearing in front of him because you got in, got your case done, went back to the office, saw some clients, and then I would go work out at Couillard Delta, the gym there, Judge, and I would have lunch at the Lamplighter every day.
Yes.
Yeah, loved Visalia. We're talking about your book, The Frame Up, A Murder in Visalia, which is the murder of Esmat Abedi, who was the wife of Mohammed Abedi, who we think committed the murder purely for the insurance money. And that seemed to be the motivation. He was a con artist who committed a bunch of frauds for money. One of them being the murder of his own wife for an insurance policy that he took out on her. But he's also an author of Murder in Visalia, The Coin Dealer Killer, and the other one is, what's your third book, Judge?
I wrote
Myth and
Stories of Murder and Mirth.
Stories of Murder and Mirth. I love that tale.
Nonfiction. It's or fiction.
Fiction.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fiction.
Well, and that was one of my questions. So you have written fiction too?
Well, yes. Just some little things I put together, kind of like short story type of thing, and
so
it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a hobby.
During the break, you wanted to talk about Alex Moyer, who was the victim in the coin dealer killer case.
Interesting thing happened in the Moyer case. Alex Moyer was the victim. His father was a fellow named Frank Moyer, who was an elderly man, and he lived over in the Santa Barbara area, and he came over, and we got to know them pretty well. And it turned out that after the one conviction, the Moyers and my wife and I and the Bill Whitman and his wife, we all went to dinner. And we got talking, and it turned out that I told him that we were from Southern California, and he says, "Where from?" And I says, "Well, my wife grew up in Whittier. I grew up in Downey." He says, "Well, I knew Downey. We lived in Downey." And he says, I knew a guy on the school board whose last name was Williams, and he had a daughter. And I graduated with her.
Oh, really?
Her name was Denny Williams, and then a few years later, Frank died.
Yeah.
And I wrote a letter to the stepmother, it's either Lucille or Louise, I forget the name now. And I expressed the sorrow that Charlotte and I had that Frank had died. And I gave her my phone number. I says, if you're ever in Visalia, she lived over in Santa Barbara. I said, if you're ever in Visalia, give us a call, stop by, and we'll get together. Well, that was in, how was that? That was a long time ago. And about 2 years ago, a good 20 years later, one morning I get a phone call. My wife answers the phone, and this woman says, "Is Ronn Couillard there?"
Yeah.
And she's always a little suspicious. My wife is. So she says, "Who is this?" She says, "This is Frank Moyer's daughter." And so she put her on to me, and I says, "I didn't know Frank Moyer had a daughter.
Yeah.
I knew Alex Moyer was the son. He was an only child as far as I knew." She says, "No, I'm the daughter. I'm 10 years younger than Alex, and I live in Kansas. I'm a school teacher, and we had your book. Somehow or another, they'd read the book, and it was all about, my brother's murder. And what she said is that I was down in the basement going through some things, and I came across some of my stepmother's letters, and this letter was there, and I read it, and your phone number was there, so I thought I'd call it.
Oh, wow.
And that's how...
And it was a letter from you that you had written to
that I had written to Lucille
30 years
Moyer
later.
Way back.
It was, I think, 1987 or 8 or something like that, if he died 9 years after the murder trial.
Yeah, it was in the early 90s at best. And this was about 3 years ago that I got this call.
And I had wondered if any of these people, because I know on the frame-up, the Betty case, which we'll probably talk next time, is, I think the daughter's still alive and living in the Bay Area somewhere, and maybe even a Betty's still alive. Who knows?
I don't know. We don't know that.
Yeah. So you have had people contact you after reading the book.
Well, I'll tell you another story about the David Stone.
Yeah, go ahead. David Stone was the murderer and the coin dealer killer.
Well, what in the book I put in that his wife Betsy came to talk to Bill Whitman,
and that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, you actually had the wife who you weren't sure whether she was involved or not, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. We didn't think she was involved, but we thought she knew something.
Right.
And she was, as it turned out, she was scared to death.
And it turns out that many years later, he's up for parole, and she comes to you seemingly
she
because...
called Bill Whitman and said, Sheriff Whitman at the time, and said that David is up for parole, and I'm afraid if he gets out, he's going to kill me.
Right.
And so Bill called me, and we set up an appointment with her, and we met with her, and she was, as I explained in the book, she was a much different person than I remember. And
she was very protective of David, the killer.
Yeah. She was afraid.
And lied for him, etc. How much, and the question that I had for you when I was reading that part of the book was, how much of that do you think she's afraid and wanted to come regarding parole? And how much of it may have been a bit of a mea culpa of, hey, Ron, back at the time, prosecutor Ron, I just want to let you know that all that stuff that I did, I'm sort of sorry for doing it.
I think that was part of it, too. Because Whitman had contacted her several times during the investigation of the case. Yeah. And actually, in the book, I have they contacted her mother up. She lived north of Fresno, and she knew more than she did.
Yeah.
She obviously did, but she was scared to death. She was flat out scared. And the boy, I'll tell you this is even getting stranger. I've gotten letters from David Stone's son's wife.
Yeah. In
the last several years. She was born the day Moyer was killed.
Oh, wow.
The Saturday. She had the book. She'd read the book, obviously. And I was told, or Whitman and I were told by Stone's wife, that both the children were on their father's side. In other words, they believed him, but I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah.
The daughter, I don't know what happened to her, but the son married this woman that was born the day David Stone was shot.
Wow.
And
had she read the book?
Yeah, they'd read the book. That's why she wrote me. And it was kind of a long story that she wrote in the letter she sent me, and I've got the letters at home. Actually, yeah. I've kept them private. But she also sent a second letter, said that they think they found the murder weapon.
No.
It
was a 22 or something like that, right?
Both Bybee, the Fresno guy victim, and Moyer, the Visalia victim, were killed by 22 caliber handguns.
But they thought they were separate guns.
They were separate guns because the matchings on the rounds didn't compare.
And I think the family lied for David basically as to whether it was stolen from one of their cars or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, that's part of the story too. What happened years and years later is the parents, the Stone parents, died. One of their sons, who was, I think, the oldest one. He lived in the house. I guess he never married. Because this daughter that wrote to me, or daughter-in-law that wrote to me, said he was sort of a hermit. And when he died, the family went to clean the house out. It looked like a hermit's cave. Yeah. And they found a .22 handgun in there that she claimed was the murder weapon.
Ever think about? I mean, I know David died in prison. So it's irrelevant at this point. But out of just pure curiosity,
if somebody could have done the ballistics. I'm sure all the ballistics are gone anyway. But
isn't that crazy?
It might have matched. It matched one of them, not both of them.
Not both murders, but yeah. All right, we are on with Ronn Couillard, Judge Couillard. I can't call you Ron Couillard.
Yes, you can. I'm Ron.
My dad, the Marine, would never forgive me. So we'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. Today's show is also brought to you by Max's Bistro and Bar. It's your neighborhood spot. I go to Max's all the time. I love the Max burger, the filet, the chicken marsala. It's all great. I mean, really, it's all just wonderful. It's always great to start off with the sweet potato fries and the truffle fries, maybe a little cocktail. Max's, your neighborhood spot. You'll love Max's because Max's loves you. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, go to KMJNow.com or get the KMJ Now app, and you can check out all of the shows on KMJ streaming, and you could send it to your friends. You could, believe me, I want you to send this show to a friend of yours because we are on with Judge Ronn Couillard, who's an author of Murder in Visalia, the coin dealer killer, and The Frame Up, A Murder in Visalia, and a few other books. But I want you to have your friends go out and get these books on Amazon. Let me pot this music down. Go out and get these books on Amazon because I think they're just beautifully written books about his time as a prosecutor in Tulare County. Also remember the Kapetan brothers. If you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, or if you've been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, call the Kapetan brothers. Do us a favor and do yourself a favor. I know it's a pretty trying time, and you're probably, if you've been in an accident, you're hurt, or maybe a friend's been in an accident and they don't know where to go to and where to turn to. Call the Kapetan brothers, 559-498-8000. Right, Judge? That sound about right?
Right.
You don't have to endorse me. Don't worry. You had some cool old timers, as I would call them, that were your adversaries back in the day. I recognize some of those names back in the day. You had Jim Wilson was one of them, I think.
Jim Wilson was there.
Who was out in Hanford on the coin dealer killer? I can't remember all the names. But you saw the comings and goings. Did you, when you became a judge after being a homicide prosecutor, you were talking about the personal relationships you had with some of your witnesses and victims' families and stuff. How enjoyable is it being a judge compared to being a prosecutor in that sense? Because you sort of lose a lot of that, don't you?
Yes, you do. The contacts I had with a couple of the people from the Visalia case as a prosecutor were obviously with the parents of the victim, because they were witnesses and so on. And then after the case was over with, and years later, after I became on the bench, I had a contact with the sister of the victim, Alex Moyer. I never even knew he had a sister.
Yeah.
But I got a strange phone call at the house one day, and my wife answered it. This was about 30 years or more after the case was over with, and this woman called. She had she'd found a letter in the basement of her home in Kansas that had my phone number on it. And it was a letter that I had written to her, which was Alex Moyer, the victim's stepmother, after the dad died. Frank Moyer, who is mentioned in the book, he was a witness in the trial. And he died, and I wrote a letter to his wife saying how sorry we were, and if she was ever in Visalia, she lived in Santa Barbara at the time. If she was ever in Visalia, to give us a call, and I left my phone number. Said Charlotte and my wife would like to get together with her.
Yeah.
So that letter, I guess, remained in this basement in Kansas for
And she found
30 years, and this woman found it, called it, and said that she was a sister of Alex Moyer. It turned out that the Moyer family was from my hometown in Southern California, Downey.
Yeah, in Downey.
Alex Moyer went to the same high school I went to.
That's crazy.
He was several years older than me, but we both graduated from Downey High School.
So, yes, and I understand you came from Downey High School, and I understand that you moved to Visalia in a little bird told me, let's say this, that you moved almost like you were the Beverly Hillbillies coming to Visalia, because you moved with two horses.
Well, we had four horses, 4 dogs, 4 cats, a bunch of chickens and some ducks, and we looked like the grapes of wrath coming over the grapevine from Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, who in Southern California has that animals like that? Did you? You a bit of a farmer?
We lived in La Habra Heights at the time, which we had an acre, and we just accumulated. My oldest daughter loved horses, so we ended up with the horses, and then cats and dogs just showed up, so we just brought them up here.
the whole game. You had, I understand you had Arabian horses?
My daughter had Arabians, the oldest daughter. She was the one that was really into horses, and she still is, actually.
Do you have property in Tulare? I mean, it was like farm property type thing?
We ended up in Visalia. We had to rent a house in town, and we boarded the horses, and we built a big fence around the house we rented and had the dogs and cats there. The reason was because this was in the Jimmy Carter years, and the interest rates were so high we couldn't sell the place down south.
Yeah.
So we were on the market for 14 months, and finally, ironically, we got an eviction notice from the house we were in because the guy that owned it had sold it. The people he sold it to wanted to move in, and fortunately, our house down south sold at the same time, so we...
Hey, let me ask you, you wish you had that property down south nowadays? Oof.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be worth a fortune.
It was... I made some money on it, but, oh, boy, it's just out of hand.
Oh, yeah. You've been married to your lovely wife, Charlotte, for how long now?
This month... We'll be married 64 years.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Tomorrow.
No kidding.
Oh, no, a week from Friday.
Oh, happy anniversary, Judge.
I have trouble with dates here.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
It was a Tuesday in August we got married.
You dedicate a lot of your success to her, and, I don't think I guess, a lot of people understand in their various occupations, but to be a homicide prosecutor and to be a judge too, it's just very, very time consuming. You take your work home with you a lot, especially as a prosecutor, right? Yeah,
I do. And tell you a little story. My wife, all her life, till the last few years, we're getting a little old, but she was a jogger.
Yeah.
And I played a lot of sports and all, but I never liked to jog. So I would ride a bike, and we'd be out on these country roads out there. She would jog 4 miles, and I'd ride the bike with her because you're out in the country and you don't know what's going to happen out there. And that's when we would talk about these cases. That was when I was a prosecutor.
Yeah, that was my question.
And we would, I'd say, okay, well, I'd run things by her. And, she'd be huffing and puffing and running along there and trying to answer me. But anyway, I'd run scenarios by her as to, different witnesses and what I might ask them and different trial tactics I might take.
Who was more of the prosecutor in that sense? Was she more conservative than you?
No, we're both very conservative.
Yeah. Okay. So
we are very conservative, and I would just ask her, what's as a juror, what would you think? And she would respond, and I'd kind of wouldn't necessarily bank everything on that, but I would take it into consideration and get a feel for it.
And I guess that's what I was asking more so is as a juror, was she more sellable? Would she buy the arguments, or would she be saying, no, that's not going to work?
Yeah, she would both. Sometimes she'd buy one, and then the other one she'd say, not only the argument, but just the line of questioning sometimes.
It's interesting because this is the doubt that we all have. You could go through all those machinations all day long, and it's just left to that moment where they say, clerk, please read the findings of the jury, right?
Correct.
And you were not assured that you were going to have convictions in these cases.
No, we had, we got convictions.
Yeah.
Well, in the Abedi, the frame-up, we'll talk about sometime later.
Next week, yes.
That was a little strange one, but in the Visalia case, it was. I felt good about it all the time because I just didn't see how they could do otherwise.
Yeah,
I thought the evidence was overwhelming.
Yeah. Do you miss that satisfaction of getting those convictions when you're a judge, or did you?
I loved being a prosecutor.
You did.
Yeah, I loved it.
Really? You rather do that than be a judge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Money was better as a judge.
We'll talk a little bit. Yeah, no kidding. We'll talk a little bit on the next occasion. But you were a prosecutor, a judge, a pro baseball player playing in the minor leagues right?
I had a cup of coffee. Let's put it that way.
Okay. An author. God knows what else. Out of those occupations, if you're a young kid and you had to say, I want to go back and do it all over again, is it being a prosecutor?
Well, I'd rather play center field for the LA Angels, but
Marcella,
that didn't work out.
I knew that was going to be the answer because my brother John would say the exact same thing. If you ask a baseball player what he'd rather do, it was always to play baseball, right? Is that what you were, center field?
Yeah. But, I mean...
You had a good arm all the way to home?
Yeah, I could throw and I could run. The other part of the game was you had to hit, and I didn't do that well.
Oh, you didn't do that well at hitting? What was your average?
Oh, I don't know.
But you don't remember?
I just.
You don't want to say?
I wasn't a good hitter,
funny.
but I always felt I could do everything else. But a lot of guys can do that.
Okay, folks. So listen, this is going to be a 2-part show, and we're going to talk about the frame-up, another fascinating, even more fascinating murder case out of Visalia. And the frame-up, again, is a book written by our guest for today, Judge Ronn Couillard. So I want you to tune in next week to the Marc Kapetan Show. Judge, we're going to pretend like a week has passed by, so I'm going to say goodbye to you for now, all right? So thank you for being on the show, Judge.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next week on the Marc.
See you next week.
See you next week there. Way to play along, Judge, on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ.